At a busy urban intersection, a motorcyclist was traveling straight alongside a large dump truck with both vehicles moving in the same direction. The biker had loaded materials onto his motorcycle, creating an unstable and wider profile that extended beyond the normal width of the bike. As they proceeded through the intersection, the loaded materials on the motorcycle made contact with the front corner of the truck. The impact caused the biker to lose balance immediately, and in a horrifying moment, he fell from his motorcycle directly into the path of the truck's massive tires. Unable to stop in time, the truck ran over the fallen rider, resulting in a catastrophic and fatal outcome. This devastating incident highlights multiple critical safety violations that led to tragedy. Motorcyclists should never overload their bikes with materials that extend beyond the vehicle's frame or compromise balance and control. Maintaining a safe distance from large vehicles is absolutely essential, as trucks have significant blind spots and require much greater stopping distances. In a busy warehouse facility, workers were engaged in wrapping and preparing materials loaded on wooden pallets. Heavy industrial equipment and large rolls of materials were scattered throughout the work area, with multiple employees performing their tasks simultaneously. An overhead crane system was being used to lift a stack of wrapped materials using hooks attached to the load. As the operator began raising the stack, the load became unstable and started to sway dangerously. The suspended stack swung directly into the worker, striking him forcefully on the head and knocking him to the ground. Other workers in the area immediately rushed to assist their injured colleague, who had been caught completely off guard by the falling hazard. This serious incident reveals multiple critical safety failures in crane operations and warehouse procedures. A worker climbed onto the roof of a small structure where a large advertising poster or banner was mounted. Standing precariously on the unstable shed roof, the man attempted to knock down the poster by kicking at it repeatedly with his feet. The roof surface appeared weak and unsteady, lacking proper support or safety features. As he continued forcefully kicking the poster in an effort to dislodge it, the worker lost his balance entirely. In a sudden and dangerous fall, he tumbled off the roof and crashed onto the hard ground below, landing heavily. Workers should never attempt to perform tasks on rooftops or elevated surfaces without proper fall protection equipment such as harnesses, safety lines, and guardrails. On a narrow street, a large truck was moving steadily forward as several motorcyclists and pedestrians shared the road. Traffic was light, and the truck driver maintained a moderate pace through the area. Behind the truck, a motorcyclist approached at higher speed and decided to overtake the slow-moving vehicle. As the biker attempted to pass on the side of the truck, the motorcycle's tires lost traction on the unstable surface. The massive vehicle rolled over the fallen motorcyclist, crushing him beneath the heavy tires. The impact was fatal. This devastating accident illustrates the extreme dangers of improper overtaking maneuvers and riding too close to road edges. Motorcyclists must always assess road conditions before attempting to pass, especially on narrow streets where shoulder space is limited and surfaces may be unpredictable. At a construction site, an excavator was operating close to the water's edge. A worker was crouched down directly beneath the excavator's boom, apparently performing some task on the ground. Without warning, the excavator's heavy bucket suddenly dropped from its elevated position, falling directly onto the worker below. The massive steel bucket struck the worker with devastating force, pinning him to the ground under its weight. Another worker nearby witnessed the horrific accident and rushed toward the scene in shock. The fallen worker was trapped beneath the bucket, suffering severe crushing injuries from the impact. This tragic incident exposes critical failures in excavator safety protocols and workset coordination. Workers should never position themselves directly beneath a raised excavator bucket or boom, as hydraulic failures, operator errors, or mechanical malfunctions can cause sudden drops without warning. In a woodworking workshop filled with machinery and lumber, a carpenter was operating a table saw to cut wooden boards. The workspace was cluttered with various pieces of wood, sawhorses, and equipment scattered across the floor. As the worker fed a board through the spinning saw blade, his hand moved dangerously close to the cutting area. In a split second, the razor-sharp blade made contact with his hand, causing a severe laceration. The worker immediately recoiled in pain, pulling his injured hand away from the machine as blood began to flow from the wound. Co-workers in the vicinity noticed the accident and rushed to provide assistance, but the damage had already been done. This devastating injury highlights the critical importance of proper machine guarding and safe operating procedures when working with power tools. Table saws are among the most dangerous tools in woodworking, capable of causing catastrophic hand injuries, including deep cuts, amputations, and permanent disability. On a wet mountain road surrounded by dense vegetation, a motorcyclist was navigating the slippery pavement following recent rainfall. The narrow roadway was treacherous, with water pooling on the surface and reduced traction making vehicle control difficult. As the rider rounded a curve, a large passenger bus appeared suddenly from the opposite direction, traveling at considerable speed. The motorcyclist attempted to brake quickly to avoid a collision, but the wet road conditions caused his bike to lose grip immediately. The oncoming bus struck him with its front section, running over the motorcyclist with devastating force. The impact was fatal, and the rider was crushed beneath the heavy vehicle. This horrific accident illustrates the lethal combination of speed, wet road conditions, and inadequate reaction time on narrow mountain roads. In a large industrial facility, an overhead crane operation was underway to lift a heavy steel beam. A worker positioned himself below to guide the lifting process, standing directly in the drop zone as the crane operator began hoisting the beam upward using lifting hooks. The beam rose several feet off the ground, suspended by what appeared to be a secure rigging setup. But within seconds, the unthinkable happened. The beam suddenly detached from the lifting hooks and plummeted downward with tremendous force. The guiding worker, who had remained directly underneath, had no time to react. The massive steel beam struck him, knocking him to the ground in a devastating impact resulted in fatal death. This incident reveals multiple critical safety violations that combined to create a tragedy. No worker should ever position themselves directly beneath a suspended load, regardless of how secure it may appear. During a public event on a busy street, a blue tractor was being driven in what appeared to be a celebration, surrounded by a large crowd of spectators. A man holding a bright yellow flag positioned himself in front of the moving tractor, waving the flag enthusiastically to entertain the gathered crowd. But the situation quickly turned from celebration to catastrophe. Within seconds, the massive rear wheels of the tractor rolled over him, knocking him violently to the ground. This tragic incident exposes severe lapses in safety awareness during public demonstrations involving heavy equipment. The tractor operator failed to ensure the area behind the vehicle was completely clear before reversing, and the dangerous speed at which he operated showed a shocking disregard for the safety of those around him. At an outdoor construction site, excavation work had revealed an underground water pipeline that required maintenance or repair. The worker began his task, focusing on the pipeline connection or joint that needed attention. Without warning, the pipeline suddenly ruptured with explosive force. A massive jet of pressurized water burst from the pipe, creating an instant geyser that engulfed the worker in a violent torrent. This incident demonstrates catastrophic failures in work planning and safety protocol when dealing with pressurized utility lines. The most critical error was the failure to properly isolate and depressurize the water main before beginning work.